Alright guys, Ashbfc here, and welcome to another review. And yes, I'm reviewing another wrestling game. Yeah, another. I will actually be doing quite a few more wrestling game reviews, but I won't only be doing wrestling game reviews, so if you're not a fan of wrestling games, don't worry, I will do some other stuff. But at the moment, I'm focusing on wrestling games. But anyway, WWF Smackdown 2, Know Your Role, great name, released on the PlayStation in the year 2000. 20 years ago. Jesus Christ. How was it 20 years ago? That's madness. But anyway, yeah, this was sequel to the original Smackdown game, which also released in 2000. Yeah, they got two out in the same year. I think it was only like 8 months apart. Man, they could get these things out quick back then. And they'd actually be good. How did they do it? You could not do that now. But, yeah. Anyway, one of my favourites, this absolute cracking game. 11-year-old me played the shit out of this. Oh man, I gotta start reviewing these retro games. It's a reminder of how fucking old I've got. Anyway, I never actually played too much of the original Smackdown game. If I actually played Smackdown 2 before I ever played the first game. If I didn't even know there was the original Smackdown before I played Smackdown 2. But yeah, it's why I'm pretty much reviewing Smackdown 2 and not Smackdown 1, because I barely ever played it. Now, first off, it did take me a little while to get used to this game back in the day, because prior to this I was playing like Warzone and Attitude, and of course WCW vs Anywhere Revenge and WrestleMania 2000, which may or may not get reviews. But yeah, the Smackdown games on PlayStation, they were much faster paced and more arcade-like. You know, they weren't really realistic, I guess, like the others. So that took a little getting used to, and I'll be honest, I wasn't overly keen on the fast pace of it. I did prefer the slower, you know, gameplays of, like I said, you know, WCW Revenge and, you know, WrestleMania 2000. But, you know, even though they were a little bit fast for my liking, they were still friggin' awesome. So you had a massive roster in this game. You had over like 60 wrestlers, which was pretty impressive back then, thinking, you know, there was a time when we were only getting like 6 wrestlers in a game. So come on, over 60, pretty good. And you had all the guys you'd expect during the Attitude Era. Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Kane. We had Undertaker as well as the American Badass Undertaker, which I think this was the first game to feature him with that gimmick, which he debuted at Judgment Day back in the day. I remember that like it was yesterday, but it wasn't. It was 20 years ago. Oh God. Taz was also there as well. He'd made the jump from ECW with the Human Suplex Machine before we had Suplex City. Tag teams in there as well. You had Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys. You had a lot of wrestlers too. Some other jobbers were in there as well. And they all had like the signature moves and finishers, which looked great. You got your rock bottoms, people's elbow, swanton bombs, choke slams, tombstones, Stone Cold Stunner with the awesome Rock Sell animation, by the way. Like, come on, no one could sell the Stunner like the Rock could. I mean, look at Austin laughing here at WrestleMania 17 as he goes for the cover. Oh man, you got double team moves as well, including the Dudleys 3D. Now the wrestlers didn't actually have full entrances like they did in WWF Attitude and WrestleMania 2000. They were more mini entrances, I guess, where you'd see the wrestler with their Titantron screen playing behind them and their music, and they do like the signature pose or whatever. I remember being a little bit disappointed back then because I liked, you know, the full entrances, but at the end of the day, it was no real big deal, you know. Graphically, I mean, the game was decent, you know, it is PS1, but it definitely didn't look as good as Warzone or Attitude, in my opinion. They had like a more realistic look, and arguably probably not as good either as the N64 games, but, you know, it certainly made up for it with its gameplay, that's for sure. It certainly surpassed Attitude and Warzone with the gameplay, no doubt about that. Great control scheme as well. Really good controls, very simple and straightforward how it should be. You know, it wasn't button combinations again like Warzone and Attitude, which took quite a bit of getting used to. Way better this way. You just X for strikes, and you can press circle and then any direction for a different sort of grapple move, depending on if the opponent was facing you or facing the other way, or if they were stunned. It would depend on, you know, what move you'd pull off. But it was really easy to pull off all your moves. You just press square for reversals as well. You can even taunt by pressing L2, and then you just pressed L1 to pull off your finisher once you'd filled your momentum bar. So yeah, very, very good control wise, how it should be. Just simple, straightforward. It worked very good. And you got a hell of a lot of content in this game too. Like, you got your money's worth, that's for sure. There was just like so many match types. You got hardcore in there, survival, battle royal, cage match in there, ladder match. You could do the King of the Ring tournament, 30-man Royal Rumble, Iron Man match. You even had the I Quit match. Special guest referee. Yep, you could play as the ref, play by the rules. Or not. Even had the casket match in there as well. As simple as it was still cool to be in there. And I'm pretty sure this was the first and only time the casket match would ever appear in a wrestling game, at least properly. I'm pretty sure about that. So, yeah. And again, I think for the first time, Hell in a Cell match. Which, it was actually just a cage with a roof. It wasn't the actual proper cell structure. But it was still cool to have it in there, you know, trying to recreate the classic Mankind Undertaker match from King of the Ring. Like, who can ever forget that? My goodness. But one of my favourites was definitely the TLC match, which again, I think this was the first game to have the TLC. Tables, ladders and chairs, oh my! Yeah, I love this. Just chaos, you know, swanton bombs off ladders and putting guys through tables, love that. I don't think until the Smackdown series you've been able to really put guys through tables, which was quite a frequent thing during the Attitude Era and of course in ECW. But you were quite limited with the tables. Like you could power bomb them, I think power drive, and you could do a rock bottom through it, and then you could like put them on the table and dive off the top rope to put them through it. You couldn't do any move you wanted to, like you couldn't just suplex them through it or something. But you know, it was still really cool putting guys through tables. It was still a pretty new feature back then, so yeah, love putting guys through tables. And it's cool because they didn't actually disappear. You put them through a table and they'd stay there. Now, this wouldn't be a thing after this game. Tables would like immediately disappear in all wrestling games to come for years, which I always hated. I think with the exception of WWF Raw on Xbox, I think Raw 2 as well, yeah, tables would just disappear immediately. And I think it took all the way up until, I think, SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 for them to actually stop disappearing. But I remember, for years, I hated it so much that the tables disappeared. It ruined it for me, so it was really cool that they stayed. Especially on a PlayStation game, man. So, yeah. Now, one of my absolute favourite things during SmackDown was take the fight backstage. Yeah, you could brawl all around the arena. You weren't just confined to the ring. Nope, you could go all sorts of places. I mean, there was like a bar, there was a restaurant, there's a locker room. You could even brawl outside in this plaza. It was amazing. VIP room, there was a boiler room. Oh, you could just fight everywhere. And oh, I loved it. And this was something that happened a lot during the Attitude Era, especially with the hardcore title. You'd have all sorts of crazy fights going in all sorts of different places. So yeah, I loved just brawling all around backstage. If I'll be honest, seriously, I probably spent more time outside of the ring than actually in the ring in this game. Like seriously, that's probably true. I loved it. Now, the game, it had a season mode like its predecessor, but I'll be honest, I didn't like it. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it really wasn't great either. Problem was really tedious. It could have been done a lot better. So you could pick any wrestler you wanted, and you'd pretty much have a never-ending career. There was no actual end to the season. It didn't have like a structured story or anything. It was kind of like random, just, you know, odd rivalries would occur and things like that, and the matches would be put randomly together. You'd go through like Raw and SmackDown, and then you'd have a pay-per-view at the end of the month. You would have these little cutscenes that would play, like in between matches and stuff. But they were kind of like pointless. They were often just like showing a wrestler coming to the arena, or a wrestler calling out another wrestler. Maybe there'd be a random attack backstage. But they were just kind of pointless, and some of them were just out of place. And more often than not, they wouldn't actually involve your wrestler. Like, for the footage I got for this review, I played through as The Undertaker, and I was never in any of the cutscenes. It was usually the same people. It was Stone Cold or Rock, sometimes Triple H, or then just randomly some other wrestler, like Val fucking Venus. Like, often it didn't really make sense, and they'd quickly start to repeat themselves. You'd be seeing the same scenes over and over and over again, sometimes with just a different wrestler in them. So yeah, you get really fed up of seeing the same cutscenes over and over again. But the thing is, right, they're usually literally just a few seconds long, and you'd have a loading screen before and after every one, and the loading screens were like 3 times the length of the cutscene. Mostly in this season, you'd be looking at a fucking loading screen, I kid you not. Really annoying. And the other thing as well is, you'd have to watch a simulation of every match on the card, and I think there was 8 matches in total, including yours, and they'd all last a few seconds, and then you'd see who the winner was. Remember, you have to do that with like 7 other matches, and yeah. every time, and not to mention the cutscenes happening in between. It takes forever just to get through a damn week of the mod. Oh my god. Like, I had to sit here and do 2 seasons for this recording, and I was bored shitless. Like, I hope you fucking appreciate this, because I was not having fun. Because the annoying part is, all the unlockables are behind the season. Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, the TLC match. Fucking Michael Cole's unlockable. I think you've got to play 3 years of the season to unlock Michael fucking Cole. That has to be a sick joke. Like, that... Oh, God. 3 years from... Oh, let's just move on. But no, not a good season mode. As I said, the main problem, just really, really tedious. It could have been done so much better. Which thankfully it was in future games, but yeah, didn't get it quite right in this. They really didn't. But that was one of my major gripes, was the season mode. Although, actually, there were a couple of decent scenes here and there, like watching Austin blow up the DX Express, which he actually did back in the day, and seeing the Dudleys do a powerbomb through a table, but there really weren't that many of them worth watching, so yeah. No, thumbs down for the season mode. And also, one of my biggest gripes, going back to the speed of the game. Yeah, the game was like super arcadey and fast, like I said, which I wasn't overly keen on. The main problem was that wrestlers just wouldn't stay down. Like, you could beat the holy fucking shit out of these guys. You could bash their head in with a chair over and over again, hit them with a million tombstones, but they'd just get up, like, almost immediately. They'd never stay down on the ground, which used to royally piss me off, which made cage matches a fucking nightmare, trying to climb out when they just keep getting up and knocking you off. Like, that was probably my biggest gripe, was it was just too fast. You know, yeah, if wrestlers would just stay down for a bit longer, but it just got super frustrating. When you've just beat them to hell and back, and they just get up like nothing's happened, and I remember that always annoying me as a kid, and it still annoys me now. So that probably would be my biggest gripe, was that right there. But, you know, despite that, and, you know, the season mode being pretty shit, it made up for it everywhere else. You know, as a massive roster, all the different matches, and all the different wrestlers and moves you could do, it absolutely made up for it. So yeah, I'd have a blast with this game back in the day. It sunk a lot of time into it. It was a lot of fun, and you know, it still is one of my favourites actually. It'd be in my top 5 wrestling games, I'd probably say. Yeah, you know, it did a lot of firsts for wrestling games. It's introducing, you know, like the TLC and the Hell in a Cell casket match. Now, Smackdown 2, yeah, one of the absolute best. Well worth a play back then and even now. So, yeah, great stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you later.